Thank you for joining us today to discuss Swimage Endpoint Management. I'm Kyle Haraldson, CEO of Swimage. Today I'm going to give you a high-level overview of the main capabilities of Swimage, which include remote workforce management, PC provisioning, PC full system recovery, PC compliance enforcement, PC health check and remediation, as well as business continuity. Here's a quick overview of all the main features of Swimage. Although Swimage has been around for 25 years, it has been primarily a provisioning tool. That's the genesis of Swimage, but has evolved over the years based on customer demands and customer requests to be a full PC lifecycle management tool, including some fundamental components such as asset monitoring, maintaining PC health, compliance enforcement, automated remediation. Goal is to minimize those support costs, minimize shipping costs, provide a very positive user experience. Demand has been with the remote self-service, especially for those work from home users, as well as being able to maintain encryption. Security is a big part of what we do. Encryption is a key part of that. So if you have encryption on your device, we can maintain that encryption throughout the entire migration process or any activities within that. We also have demands that we want to protect and control all data rather than having to give up your data into the cloud. Any data that's localized, we want to make sure we protect that, keep it encrypted, also recover it, and be able to deploy and migrate any data regardless of where it's located. And finally, we want to be able to scale to very large, very complex environments, depending on what your needs are. Swimage is going to adapt to that versus the other way around. You don't have to change your processes, your business functions in order to adapt to our solutions. We're very flexible that way. We have many years of experience doing this, and so we have the ability across the board to really handle any type of situation. Okay, a little bit more about the PC lifecycle management part of Swimage. So from cradle to grave, Swimage handles this. So on the purchasing side, Swimage provides a really defined provisioning engine. This provisioning engine allows you to define all the attributes within Swimage, give you the machine name, which operating system you're laying down, which applications you lay down, how to configure it, any customizations, really anything you want to do 100% of the time you can manage through the provisioning engine within Swimage. This is a centralized provisioning engine, so a single portal you go to, you can do basically everything with that. Okay. Then once you've got it provisioned, it's fully automated, you provision it, and then the PC boots up and it knows exactly how to build itself. And that building itself can be basically unique to every single device in your organization. Okay. Once it is provisioned and built, then you get into maintenance mode. Maintenance mode is anything you need to do around monitoring the PC health, remediating any issues, upgrading the operating system, repairing problems. You can recover from malware. You can recover from ransomware. You can keep this PC compliant, so you can detect if it's out of compliance. You base those on rules. If those rules get mismatched and you need to realign that machine, you can do that very quickly through micro programming, which can fix little issues. Or you can step in and say, you know what, this is so far out of compliance, and I'm actually going to rebuild the entire system from scratch. So you could take it from one extreme to the other if you need to, based on your needs and your organization. Okay, and then you can also refresh the PCs for a new computer. So you can ship out a new PC, migrate everything from the old machine to the new machine. It's a very, very simple process. I'm actually going to demo that today. And that process allows for even the users to do that themselves. So you can ship out a new machine to the endpoint, to a home user, and all they have to do is power it up, and it's going to migrate everything from old to new. That simple, and they ship the old one back. So very, very simple process for that. It can be done either individually like that at the home, or it can be done in mass so that lots of machines can be done in an office simultaneously without really impacting your bandwidth at all. Swimage is optimized to be very bandwidth friendly, whether it's a lot of machines in the office or a single user at home, even through dial-up. Swimage can handle those kind of requirements. Okay, and then finally, when you come to replacing that PC, you can then dispose of the old one. You can do a DoD wipe on the old one if you want to, after all the data has been transferred, and then you can dispose of that machine. So a very, very simple process in managing your life cycle for all your machines, and then you start over again with a new machine, and you can continue to maintain. The goal, again, is to make this a very simple process, easy for the users, very painless for those end users, that they can get machines up and running very quickly and really minimize that downtime. Goal here is to reduce those IT expenses. So reducing the IT expenses means minimal shipping costs. So if you have to ship machines out right now because you need to fix issues, but you don't have a really good support model. Typically, that's what ends up happening. You have a home user, they're having an issue. It's cheaper to just ship them a new machine. They use the new machine that they shipped out, and then they send the old one back and it gets decommissioned. Or you ship out a loaner machine, and then temporarily they ship their old one back to a depot. It gets migrated to a machine or repaired, and then the shipping goes back. Rather than doing all that cross shipping, what Swimage can do is simply be a triggered event that says this machine is running slow, it's not right, it's got malware, it's got something going on with it. Rather than shipping out a new device, simply fix it in place. So what it will do is it will send a command out. It will redeploy the entire system from all known good source in place. No network required, no external storage required. It does everything in place on that same drive, rebuilds the operating system, and reinstalls all your applications, migrates all your settings, profiles, data, everything. About 30 minutes, you're up and running. That completely eliminates those cross shippings just to simply fix a machine. It also reduces your support costs because you don't have individuals having to spend hours on the phone trying to figure out what's going on with the machine. Simply trigger an event, says, go ahead and redeploy. We can take that to another level, and the users can actually do this themselves. If they feel like they're having a problem, last time this fixed the problem, I'm going to go ahead and do it again. They can actually reinitiate a rebuild of their system in place, knowing that they're going to have all their functionality back. Apps, settings, data, everything they need to do their job is going to be recovered on that machine. And in about 30 minutes, they're back functioning again. There's an external benefit of this as well. So if you reimage machines more often, or you simply wait for a certain period of time and just reimage a machine, say toward the end of the hardware life, traditionally, which might be 3 years, refreshing the operating system is going to speed up that machine, because it's going to get rid of bloatware. It's going to get rid of all the fat that's on that machine that has been slowing it down. It's not the hardware that's slowed down. It's the operating system and the bloat that's on it. So you refresh that machine. What you can do is instead of having 3-year life cycle in your machines, you can get hardware life 4, 5, 6 or plus years on these machines. We've had customers getting 9, 10 years out of a piece of hardware. If the hardware is fine, it's not really, misfunctioning or anything like that, and the users aren't really heavy users, they can live with hardware for as long as they need to. So Swimage is a really good process for getting that extended hardware, which saves a lot of money. Okay. Next, we want to improve performance. The idea is that we want little to no downtime. The users can get up and running very rapidly. They can be done over lunch. It can be done overnight. It can be done if there's a critical issue during the day, because it doesn't take very long to get it completed. But the key part about this is all data settings are protected and retained. So at the end of the process, the users don't have to spend another day or weeks trying to reconfigure their Outlook signatures or reconfiguring all their where the icons are located and getting exactly the way you want. That personality gets transferred with Swimage. So they log in, they don't even realize anything's changed, except on the back end. It's a brand new operating system. It's all new installed applications. It's all cleaned up. Any of the bloat, anything that you didn't want on there has been purged completely. So it's a really clean build, but that personality still gets retained, which makes the users very happy. They continue their job, which is really about maximizing their performance for your company. Okay. And then finally, what I want to talk about is a little bit around the business continuity. This is a really important factor because Swimage is designed to allow for business continuity and get triggered in the event of a disaster recovery. So if you have Swimage enabled on all your devices and you have a malware outbreak, for example, you can use Swimage to trigger that event so that malware gets purged very quickly from your organization. It'll lock the system and it'll immediately trigger a rebuild of your systems. And this could also include ransomware. We have a ransomware recovery component as well that does a backup of your data, which can restore. So what happens is, because Swimage resides on the machines itself, it can recover from itself. So it recovers the operating system, all your applications, purges your ransomware. It can be done completely remote, and it can do all simultaneously. So you could actually have an entire system recovery in a matter of minutes to hours versus weeks or months to get a full company rebuilt if you have that kind of outbreak. So Swimage is a fundamental part of disaster recovery. And then also we have the piece that fits in that's the security compliance, making sure that all machines are within bounds of security. So if you have kiosk machines that require high level of security because they're public facing, if anything gets out of compliance, if it feels like it's getting hacked or anything like that on these devices, Swimage can kick in immediately and lock that system out from any further attacks. And then it can also not only lock it out or report it and rebuild the system in place without any ability to access the system while it's being rebuilt. Now I'm going to talk about the offerings of Swimage. First, we're going to start with the Swimage Endpoint Management. That is our flagship product. It's been around for a number of decades, and what it allows is for the rebuild, reimaging, bare metal build, PC replacements, recovery, refreshes, domain migrations, everything to do with imaging a device. Imaging the device includes laying the operating system down, including drivers, application settings, data migration from PC to PC or in place, full recovery of a system, whether it's malware or just you need to refresh the operating system or domain migration. Swimage Attune is an extension to Swimage Endpoint Management. Swimage Attune allows for the extension to the home office or the worker from home, remote worker, that's very hard to reach. So what Attune does is it gathers all the components necessary to build that machine, and it creates a recovery space on that device, keeps that recovery space secure and up to date, so that in the event of a future migration, Attune is at the ready to redeploy this machine. With Attune, it allows for a mass upgrade of an environment, or if you need to do disaster recovery, it allows you to rebuild systems simultaneously and get the entire organization back up and running in a matter of a couple of hours. Okay. The Compliance Enforcer is another extension to the Endpoint Manager, which allows for devices to be, based on rules, monitored and fixed and repaired as needed. So it keeps machines compliant. So you set up some rules within Swimage and the Compliance Enforcer to say, I need to have certain settings always installed. I need to have applications installed. If a machine gets detected and does this within seconds, it's out of compliance, then the Compliance Enforcer will take action. The action can be repair that application, upgrade the operating system, it can lock the system, it can reinstall software. You can do whatever is necessary to fix that problem, get that machine back into compliance. Okay. Next, we have the Ransomware Recovery, yet another extension, which is a plugin that allows you to do all of the existing components of rebuilding a system, recovering from malware, but with the ransomware, your data is no longer intact and reliable. So what Ransomware Recovery does is it adds a backup component, which is an incremental backup to your devices. And when a triggered action happens where you need to rebuild the system because of ransomware, everything else gets rebuilt from known good source, good applications, good images, good drivers, and then the data, which is no longer reliable, gets retrieved from these backups. Okay? And then the Encryption Converter is a tool. It's not an extension. It's a whole separate tool that allows you to zero touch in a mass scale, converting encryption from one type of encryption to another. So if you want to go from encryption A to encryption B, what it does is it locks the system. It will add a second layer of encryption to the machine. It will then remove the old encryption, decrypt it, remove it, and then it will securely add the new encryption, re-encrypt the drive, unencrypt the second layer of encryption, and then unlock the machine and get it back to the user. It takes a couple of hours. It can be done overnight. It is completely zero touch and highly scalable. You can do anywhere from a few to a few thousand a day. Okay. And then finally, we have our white glove services. The white glove services for Swimage allow you to use our expertise to do any type of managed services, managing Swimage itself, managing all your compliance, your rules. We have a lot of expertise around that. We can also do provisioning. So we would provision all your devices, ship them to the endpoints, and we would keep all your systems healthy and secure. I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint again. Okay. And talk a little bit about what value Swimage brings to our organization. Now, we did a case study for a company, and this is kind of the information we came out of this case study of where the savings were at. And they're basically four main buckets. Reduce user downtime. This is the amount of time a user has to wait for their machine to get functioning again after something happens. So maybe it gets a blue screen of death, it dies, it gets a virus, whatever it is. Depending on where they're at and where the technicians are, I've seen home users get 2 weeks downtime before they can get fully functional again because of the cross shipping that has to happen and that sort of thing. And for those remote workers, the downtime reduction is significant because Swimage can kick in, rebuild the system, get it functioning in a matter of minutes versus sometimes weeks. But on average, what we discovered, about 80% reduction in user downtime. Okay, now we have the reduction in shipping costs. So reduction, especially for the home workers, where you're shipping loaner PCs, they're shipping their old PC back, it gets repaired, it gets shipped back, you ship the loaner back, reducing a lot of shipping. And anytime there's a non-hardware related issue, Swimage can kick in and fix it, regardless of the issue. It's a blue screen of death because the operating system got corrupted, bad driver, something like that gets on that machine, malware. Swimage will fix that. It's not a hardware related issue. You don't have to ship machines because Swimage can fix that in place. Reduction in shipping costs we found was about 90% reduction. Okay. Again, it varies based on kind of what your activities and your business processes are. Okay. Next is reduction in support and tech costs. We do that by 95%. Most of the time, this is all self-service. You can do this remotely. You don't have to send out second-tier support. So desk side support tier many times goes away. Instead of sending out second-tier support, which is your desk side, hey, user, step out of my way. I'm going to sit at your desk for the next 4 hours trying to figure out why you're having these pop-up or whatever you're getting on this machine and tweaking the registry, uninstalling apps or whatever. First-tier support can simply rebuild the system. So they can send out a command to either fix it or complete reimage it. They don't have to send out desk side support. They can do it overnight. They can say, I'm going to schedule you for, let's try 7 p.m. You'll be home. Come back in the morning and tell me if the problem's solved. And more often than not, Swimage will solve the problem. That machine is fully refreshed. Users say thumbs up, ready to go. Tickets closed. Very little support tech time involved. Okay. And then finally is the increased throughput. If you have a mass migration, if you have a domain migration, acquisition, something like that, we can increase the throughput significantly. 650% is this particular example. Again, may vary. But it's because of the snapshot that we can do very aggressive. We're very robust, very resilient, very easy to set Swimage up. It takes very little effort. Swimage is up and running. You get it installed. You configure your templates. This is what you want to do. It can build the image. You can start pushing out very rapidly. So instead of having months, 6 months to a year, sometimes 2 years before you can take an entire organization and migrate it from domain A to domain B, we can do that in a matter of weeks. So that throughput gets significantly improved. You can do, if you're really gutsy about it, you can do an entire light switch migration. One weekend, you can get an entire organization migrated from one domain to another using Swimage because the actual technology behind this is robust enough to allow you to do that. Okay, I want to talk next a little bit about the ease of setup, comparing specifically to Autopilot. We're getting a lot of feedback from the challenges with Autopilot. There's a lot of push to go this direction. Microsoft is providing it with the EAs, but they have a lot of prerequisites that's a little concerning because you have to have everything Microsoft related. It's got the EA, you have to have OneDrive, you have to have Azure AD, you have to have Microsoft Attune to really take advantage of what Autopilot's offering. But that also means you're giving all your infrastructure and identity and all your data over to Microsoft. And who knows what they have in store for the future as far as licensing goes around that. I'm not sure everybody is really keen on giving that all over to Microsoft because that could be problematic later down the road. Rather than that, keep control over that. So Swimage allows you to control your image. It allows you to control all of your applications. It controls all of your data. It doesn't matter where you store your data. Swimage is going to manage that. It's very easy to set up. So Swimage setup is a couple of AD accounts, a SQL database, a single server. It doesn't matter the size of our organization. We have customers on the couple hundred machines up to 350,000 plus systems being managed with Swimage in a single organization. Still the same kind of infrastructure. Very simple to set up. It's a click, next finish. Couple of hours, and you're fully functional. That fully functional meaning you can actually start deploying. kick off the agent, you push it out, and those machines immediately are ready to be rebuilt, managed, controlled, everything through Swimage, because we have so many of the out-of-box templates and everything already configured. 80% of the time, it's like, yeah, it's good to go, ready to configure and start using Swimage immediately. And then the deployment times, about 30 minutes. Anytime there's an issue, you can rebuild a system in 30 minutes. On the Autopilot side, not as much. It can take a long time to even deploy a machine. And if they're remote, low bandwidth, no bandwidth, can't do it at all. It doesn't work. So in Autopilot, you have a lot of limitations. It's heavy labor to set up. There's a long learning curve. You have to have special talent in order to manage this, which usually translates to expensive talent. You have to have multiple portals. Anybody that's used it and trying to manage it is always frustrated with Microsoft regularly changing what their portal looks like and what you have to do. And all of their policies that you do within Autopilot are really Microsoft driven. So you have some flexibility what policies are, but it's within their limits. So you can't say, for example, I want to change some of the Windows components that are installed by default because Microsoft may not want you to do that. But with Swimage, you can change any of those. You can remove any of the Windows components that you don't want to have in your organization. Okay. Installation is a lot of times weeks to months with Autopilot, and configuration takes a very long time. And it's a lot of technical debt to install Autopilot. And once you're into that technical debt, getting out of it is also very expensive. So you're kind of at the mercy of Microsoft, whatever they want to do for their licensing fees, they've got you. Okay, so we want to make everybody aware that there's an alternative to Autopilot. You don't have to do that. However, if you want to go Autopilot route, we can leverage it. We can still deploy applications from Intune. We can support the Autopilot provisioning process. We can do all of that with Autopilot, but we certainly don't depend on it. Okay, then coming to the actual deployment flexibility, which you can do with Swimage versus Autopilot. Autopilot is very rigid. You can't customize the image. You're going to get the latest Microsoft image whether you like it or not. Swimage allows you to have that fully customizable. You can build and maintain it with Swimage. Like I said earlier, you have Swimage actually define your image within Swimage. Say, I want my image to look like this. I want to have these customizations, these settings, these applications. Go. Swimage actually rebuild that entire image for you, sysprep it, publish it, all with one click. So it's very, very easy to manage and update images with Swimage. Swimage also manages your hardware drivers. You can point to an existing machine and extract the drivers directly off that device and create a driver pack out of it. So you can customize drivers. You can create applications that are treated like drivers. So you can have an application that's packaged like an application, but handled and installed like a driver. So for instance, your hotkeys or whatever is specific to a certain type of hardware, you can say install this application on this particular hardware based on what Swimage detects on that machine. Okay, and you can also use hardware wildcarding to say, I want all Dell machines to have these couple of drivers in addition to all the other normal drivers it's going to use based on its PMP. Within Autopilot, the hardware drivers are pulled down from the update. So the update store, fine for the vast majority of them. We have no problem with that, but there's going to be exceptions to that, and Swimage can also support that model, but Autopilot doesn't have any exceptions for those off cases that are once in a while. You're going to have a driver that you don't want from the store. You want a specific driver for a specific model. You can do that. On the application side, Swimage can handle any type of silent application from anywhere. It can stage those locally as well, so they can install those rapidly and be ready for those applications immediately on first login. It also does a matching application process, so it can match applications based on what it found in your old system, your old operating system. Match those based on rules and reinstall those applications. It can reinstall the same application, or you can pick and choose different applications based on app A. I want to reinstall app B. You can do stuff like that. Okay. And then on the Autopilot side, applications are fairly rigid. It has to be in the Microsoft Store or in SCCM through SCCM applications. And it's very bandwidth restrictive. So you have to have pretty high bandwidth to get those applications installed. And it can take a long time before applications are actually installed on a machine after the user logs in, which becomes a problem for the zero trust process, because you could have a very long wait period with Autopilot before that machine actually becomes secure and compliant. Whereas Swimage, that machine's compliant before the user even logs in for the first time. Then on the customizations, we have the ability to customize anything you want to with this process. We can customize templates. You can add additional scripts, any type of executable, run it through PowerShell. And you apply those customizations to a template. That template gets applied to a provisioning process. That provisioning gets applied to a machine. And then that machine's going to honor that throughout the life of that machine. Okay. Customizations with an Autopilot are really strict around group policies. Again, like I was saying, group policies within what Microsoft allows in Autopilot are restricted based on what Microsoft wants you to see. They're controlling the group policies. You're not. Although you can manage which group policy you're assigned, you can't add your own personalized group policies in there. Okay. And then data protection, we protect data no matter where it's at. It detects where the data is at based on rules. It keeps data where it's located. If you want to migrate data with Swimage to go, I want to go from localized data to OneDrive, you can do that. If you're already in OneDrive, Swimage can handle that. And it'll migrate data wherever, however you want. And you also have data within that full disk snapshot. So it does do that snapshot. If you ever need to retrieve data, that snapshot has all the data in there. So even if your rules missed it, you can actually go and retrieve it. The goal again with Swimage is never have any data loss and always have your data protected. Now that snapshot in the event of malware can also be taken offline, and you can take that and put it into its own virtual machine, and you can do forensics on it. If you see malware on a machine, you get that machine fully recovered, take that snapshot offline and actually go through that process and find out where the malware came from and do that sort of forensics on it. Okay. Then we also maintain encryption throughout, so at no point is data ever decrypted on that machine. If you start encrypted, you're going to keep that encryption through the entire process. On the Autopilot process, a little more rigid on that. If you really want to maintain your data on a PC replacement, you have to have it in OneDrive. There's no process in Autopilot to go to directly from PC to PC or even to some type of external storage. You have to have it in OneDrive for it to get restored. If you're doing an in-place rebuild, it does delete all your data. You can retain just the data in your profile. Anything outside of your profile is gone. It's unrecoverable at that point. So you do have some risk in data loss if you're storing data outside of your standard profiles. And you also have no control over any of the settings with Swimage or with Autopilot. But you do with Swimage, you have full control over all your data retention settings. Okay, quick summary of everything I talked about. I'll let you read through this. Get more information, though, on our website. We have a lot of information on the website about how Swimage operates, a lot of detail of, about any of the specifics around here, how data is handled, how applications are handled, a little bit more about the console. And you can also go to the website and get more information about setting up. You can request a demo. You can contact our health support. You can request a quote, things like that. Okay. Thanks for joining us. It's been my pleasure to give you this information and help you out. Again, go to our website, get more information, request a quote, contact us. You can contact us at info@swimage.com, and we will reach out to you immediately and get you whatever you need. And we have case studies, all kinds of information about ROI analysis, anything like that. Also sign up for our newsletter. We have that on the website as well. Go ahead and sign up, and we'll send our monthly newsletter and get all the updates and capabilities of Swimage. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks again, and I appreciate it.